Hello and welcome to Sleepy Science Story. This is your time to slow down, to let the world soften at the edges and drift somewhere quieter for a while. Tonight we're wandering into the soft glow of summer's most magical scientists' fireflies, those tiny floating lanterns that turn warm nights into glittering skies. We'll explore 100 sleepy facts about these gentle creatures, from the chemistry that makes them shimmer to the secret rhythms of their light-filled conversations. So settle in, find a cozy spot, and let your thoughts flicker softly like fireflies over a moonlit meadow. I do hope this story isn't so interesting it keeps you awake, but if it does, at least your dreams will sparkle with 1,000 tiny wings and lights that hum quietly against the dark. A gentle like and a sleepy tap on subscribe would mean the world. The night begins softly. The air is thick with the scent of warm grass and sweet soil still holding the memory of daylight. Crickets hum in the distance, their rhythm slow and steady like a sleepy heartbeat. And then, just as the world begins to sink into the calm of darkness, the first light appears. It's small at first, like a spark that forgot to fade. It hovers above the ground, glowing once, twice, and then disappearing into the quiet. A moment later, another joins it, and then another, until the field begins to breathe with tiny flickers of light. Each one blinks in its own time, never quite in unison, yet somehow never chaotic either. The darkness comes alive, not with noise, but with slow, pulsing stars that have chosen to live on Earth. To watch fireflies rise is to watch the night remember how to dream. Their glow is unlike any other kind of light. It doesn't glare, it doesn't pierce. It floats, suspended like a sigh that never ends. In the soft space between dusk and true darkness, these small winged lights perform their quiet rituals, drifting upward in gentle spirals before sinking back toward the grass. From a distance, they look like stars that have come loose from the sky, testing the air before returning home. Each flicker seems deliberate, but no single flash is meant for us. They glow for each other, not for wonder, and yet we cannot help but feel that wonder all the same. A firefly's light is something close to perfection. It's called bioluminescence, a living light that asks for no flame and burns no fuel. Deep within the tiny lanterns in their abdomens, chemicals meet and combine in silence. Oxygen slips through thin tissues, mingling with luciferin and the enzyme luciferase. Energy moves between them like a soft breath, and instead of heat or smoke, the result is a cool, golden glow. The light is almost entirely efficient. Nearly all the energy is turned into illumination, which is something our brightest bulbs still struggle to achieve. The firefly never wastes, never scorches, never needs to rest from its own brightness. It simply glows because that is what it was made to do. Every flash is both a message and a mystery. To the firefly, it means life and connection, but to us it becomes a kind of poetry. The patterns seem random, but they follow rhythms older than language. Each species has its own signature pulse, a sequence written into instinct and carried through generations. To the untrained eye, the meadow looks like a scatter of light, but to the fireflies it's a quiet conversation of recognition and reply. In that glowing exchange, males call out their presence across the dark, and females hidden in the grass answer with gentle responses of their own. Their entire world depends on this communication of light, a silent symphony unfolding in the air while the rest of the earth sleeps. It's a delicate dance that has lasted for millions of years. Fossil evidence suggests that fireflies have been glowing since the time of dinosaurs, sending their signals long before humans ever thought to chase them with jars. Perhaps ancient forests, now lost to time, once shimmered at night the same way our meadows do now. The thought of that endless chain of glimmers linking the past to the present feels almost like a lullaby the earth has been singing to itself for ages. The song has no words, only light and patience. When you stand in a field filled with fireflies, the boundaries between sky and land seem to blur. The stars above and the lights below mirror each other in perfect symmetry. It's easy to imagine that if you stepped forward quietly enough, you might walk into the space between worlds where the sky bends low to touch the earth. The air feels alive, not loud or heavy, but humming with invisible threads of energy that connect everything. It's hard to know where the light begins and where it ends, because in truth, it never really does. The magic of fireflies lies in their gentleness. They remind us that light doesn't always have to blaze to be seen. It can flicker softly, dance slowly, and still fill the darkness. It can be quiet and still beautiful. As you watch them drift through the warm air, you might notice how the night feels less empty. The spaces between the flashes are just as important as the flashes themselves. That is how the firefly's light works. It teaches the rhythm of rest and return, of shining and pausing, of simply existing in harmony with the dark. And so the field glows on, quiet and endless, a sea of tiny lights rising and falling like breathing. The crickets continue their chorus, the grass sways, and the world feels both immense and intimate all at once. The fireflies are everywhere and nowhere, vanishing into the night, even as they fill it with light. It's a scene as old as life itself, a reminder that even in the deepest dark, there will always be something small and steady that remembers how to glow. If you were to hold a single firefly in your hand, it would seem too small, too delicate to hold such a powerful secret. Its wings, thin as paper, catch the faintest breath of air, and its body feels weightless, more like a thought than a creature. And yet, hidden inside that tiny form lies one of nature's most remarkable inventions, the ability to create light without heat. It is as if the night itself has chosen a gentle, silent way to shine. Scientists have spent years studying this quiet miracle, and still, the more they understand, the more mysterious it seems. Inside the lower half of a firefly's abdomen is a chamber lined with cells that sparkle under a microscope. Each cell is like a miniature lantern containing all the ingredients needed to make light. The firefly's body breathes in oxygen, and this oxygen seeps into those lantern cells where it meets luciferin, a molecule that glows when it reacts. An enzyme called luciferase carefully controls this reaction, allowing the light to appear and vanish as if switched on by thought. The energy for this process comes from adenosine triphosphate, the same fuel that powers the muscles of every living thing. Together they form a perfect circle of energy, a living chemistry lesson that burns cold and shines warm. The most astonishing part of this process is its efficiency. When humans make light, whether from a bulb or a flame, much of the energy becomes heat. A candle, for example, turns only a small fraction of its energy into visible light. A firefly's lantern, on the other hand, wastes almost nothing. Nearly all the chemical energy becomes radiance. It glows softly, without warmth, in a way that seems almost magical. And yet, it isn't magic. It is chemistry performed in the quiet rhythm of nature's pulse, Still, science alone cannot capture what it feels like to see it happen. A firefly's glow seems alive in a way that no artificial light can imitate. It brightens not just the air around it, but something deeper in the mind. There's a reason so many people remember chasing them as children, jars in hand, hearts racing in the dusk. The light feels personal, like it's being offered rather than emitted. It's the kind of light that invites you to slow down and look closer. For the firefly, the light has purpose far beyond beauty. It is a signal, a heartbeat of communication carried through the dark. Each flash is a message, part of a code that only fireflies can read. Some species flash once every few seconds, while others blink rapidly, almost like laughter. To us, it may seem random, but to them it is language. The male sends his pattern across the air, and if a female recognizes the rhythm as her own, she replies with her own brief pulse. The two follow each other's signals until, finally, they meet. What looks like art to us is, in fact, a precise exchange, an entire conversation written in light. Different species have different dialects. A single meadow may hold a dozen kinds of fireflies, each speaking their own luminous language. If one were to listen carefully with the eyes instead of ears, the night would seem like a quiet orchestra of lights, each one playing its own part, sometimes overlapping, sometimes answering in perfect time. It's a living Morse code built from millions of years of practice, and it fills the darkness with meaning. The firefly controls its glow with extraordinary precision. Muscles around its lantern can open or close tiny tubes that carry oxygen into the light-producing cells. When those tubes open, light blooms almost instantly. When they close, it vanishes again, like a breath held in the dark. This on and off control allows the insect to flash in complex rhythms, saving energy while also keeping its messages clear. It is a kind of natural engineering that would take humans decades to perfect, yet the firefly performs it effortlessly, guided only by instinct and evolution. When you think of it this way, the firefly becomes more than just a beautiful insect. It becomes a teacher of balance and resourcefulness. It makes something extraordinary out of almost nothing, turning air, enzymes, and a bit of energy into wonder. Its glow is proof that light does not always have to be fierce or consuming to be powerful. Sometimes the most enduring light is the one that hums quietly, steady, and kind. If you stand still in the soft darkness long enough, you can almost feel the chemistry at work all around you. Tiny sparks appear at the edge of your vision, and before you know it, the air is alive with invisible equations written in green and gold. Each pulse of light is a moment of creation, the smallest possible miracle repeated again and again until the night itself begins to glow. The science behind the firefly's lantern may be exact, but its effect on the human heart is something no formula can measure. To watch it is to witness the meeting of logic and magic, the quiet proof that the universe still keeps secrets. And perhaps that is why we find it so comforting. The firefly's glow reminds us that even the smallest beings can hold whole galaxies inside them, and that sometimes the simplest light is enough to guide us through the dark. When the last threads of daylight fade and the air thickens with the scent of warm earth, the real performance begins. Across the grass, tiny points of gold appear, scattered at first and then multiplying until the field shimmers like a slow, breathing constellation. The field pulses. Every light seems to move with its own purpose, rising and falling, drifting through the dusk in quiet arcs. They flash, pause, and flash again, never all at once, yet never entirely apart. What looks random from afar is in fact a symphony of timing. The night becomes a clockwork of light, precise and alive, as if the stars have come down to live among the grass blades. Each firefly is a participant in this choreography of glow, but none act alone. The males hover and blink in patterns unique to their kind, a luminous signature that drifts through the night air. Their flashes are questions whispered into the dark. The females wait below in the tall grass, watching and listening with their eyes, responding when the rhythm feels right. She sends back a faint, single glow, a soft answer that says, "Yes, I see you." From there, the dance begins, an exchange of pulses across the meadow, a conversation so ancient it predates language itself. Every species speaks in its own pattern, a specific number of flashes, a certain interval, a tempo that must be just right. To the human eye, it all looks like chaos, but to a firefly, each flicker has meaning. It's not just beauty, it's communication, instinct woven into light. In a way, it's their version of music, one that doesn't need sound to be heard. The sky above remains still, and yet the air hums with silent rhythm. Each flash is a beat, each pause a rest. Together they form a melody that stretches across the fields and forests of summer. In some places, this language takes on an almost unbelievable form. Along riverbanks in Thailand, and deep in the forests of Malaysia and the Great Smoky Mountains, entire colonies of fireflies synchronize their flashes until thousands of individuals blink as one. It begins quietly, a few lights catching each other's rhythm by chance. Then, like ripples spreading across water, the pattern grows until the whole forest pulses together, bright and dark in perfect unison. It feels as though the night itself is breathing, inhaling light and exhaling shadow. Scientists still study this phenomenon, fascinated by how so many separate creatures can align so perfectly. The current belief is that each firefly subtly adjusts its rhythm to match the average of its neighbors, a process of small changes that lead to harmony. What begins as individual flickers becomes one immense heartbeat of light. To stand in such a place is to witness something close to the sacred. The darkness hums with motionless energy, and every pulse of gold feels like a thought shared by the entire forest. The trees glow faintly, illuminated by thousands of wings, and the ground shimmers like a quiet sea. For a moment, it seems as though the line between creature and environment has dissolved. The fireflies are not just part of the forest. They are the forest, its very breath made visible. There is a strange peace in watching this rhythm unfold. Time slows, and the usual boundaries of day and night, sound and silence, seem to disappear. The world becomes a single living body, lit from within by tiny lanterns that know no rush. Their light is patient, their motion effortless. It is easy to forget that each flash is a message, that within this dreamlike glow there is urgency, attraction, and survival. For the fireflies, this is life condensed into light, a brief window when their entire purpose is written across the sky. Yet there is no sense of hurry in their display. Their timing is perfect because it must be, not because they chase it. They flash, they wait, they answer, and the world responds in kind. The meadow becomes a living clock, ticking gently in gold and green. The air itself seems to listen, carrying the silent conversations from one patch of grass to the next. It is a kind of perfection that requires no control, only harmony, a balance between individual and collective that humans rarely manage to find. As you watch, you might feel the same quiet synchrony tugging at your thoughts. Your breathing slows to match the rhythm. Your heartbeat settles into their pulse. The world outside the field fades until there is only this steady flicker of light and the soft, endless night surrounding it. You begin to realize that the beauty of fireflies is not just in their glow, but in their stillness. They have learned how to move in time with the world, to shine just enough and only when it matters. And when at last the lights begin to fade and the night deepens, it doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like the exhale after a long, calm breath. The fireflies drift lower, their messages complete, their light dimming in gentle surrender. The darkness closes in again, peaceful and whole, as though it too has been listening all along. If you were to walk through a quiet meadow just after sunset, when the last colors of the day have melted into blue, you would find the air beginning to stir with life. The first crickets begin their song, the breeze brushes softly through the grass, and the light starts to move again. The fireflies are rising from the shadows, one by one, drifting through the air like floating embers. You might think of them as the night's first dream, delicate and unhurried, each carrying its own small flame. It is easy to forget that these tiny lights are also small lives, fragile and brief, each one shaped by a journey as quiet and intricate as the glow they carry. Long before a firefly ever takes flight, before its light begins to shine, it spends its early life underground. Hidden in the soft soil beneath leaves and roots, firefly larvae live in a world of shadows and moisture. They look nothing like their glowing adult selves. Their bodies are soft and segmented, and their lanterns are only faintly visible, tiny points that flicker in the dark earth. Even here, though, the light has purpose. It warns other creatures that the firefly larva is not an easy meal. It produces chemicals that taste bitter, and the faint glow signals danger, a quiet way of saying stay away. In the darkness of the soil, the larvae hunt. They move slowly but with precision, seeking out snails, worms, and other small creatures. When they find one, they release a drop of numbing fluid that stills their prey, allowing them to feed. It may seem cruel, but it is simply life doing what life must. The earth is full of such silent exchanges, and the firefly plays its small part. During the months spent below ground, it grows stronger and stores energy for the transformation to come. Its tiny body, patient and purposeful, prepares for the moment when it will rise into the open air and light the world. When spring comes and the ground begins to warm, the larvae spin small chambers of soil and silk and rest inside them. For weeks, they sleep while their bodies reshape. Legs strengthen, wings form, and the faint glow that once warned of danger becomes something far more beautiful. When the moment is right, they emerge into the night, still damp from their long sleep, and stretch their new wings for the first time. The world must feel enormous after months spent buried. The air must feel endless, the light unfamiliar, and the stars above like reflections of their own hidden lanterns. Their time above ground is brief, a few weeks, sometimes only days, but in that short span the meadow becomes theirs. Each evening they rise again to call, to answer, to dance with their own kind. The light that began as a warning has become a message of invitation. The same chemical reaction now carries the promise of connection. The rhythm of their flashes has been perfected through generations, each pattern tuned to the exact wavelength of attraction. In some species, The eggs that the females lay after their dance also glow faintly, like tiny pearls scattered in the soil. It is as if the firefly's story begins and ends in the same soft light. The cycle repeats quietly, year after year, unseen for most of its life, and then suddenly everywhere, transforming the night. The larva's slow patience and the adult's brief brilliance are two halves of the same miracle. To think that all of this, every light in the field, every pulse of gold comes from creatures so small, is to realize how easily wonder hides in plain sight. The firefly spends most of its existence in silence and darkness, and yet it is remembered for its light. There is something deeply comforting about that thought. The glow that fills the air on summer nights is not born suddenly. It is the result of months of stillness, of quiet preparation beneath the earth. The firefly reminds us that brilliance often begins in places unseen. As the evening deepens, you can almost imagine the ground beneath your feet glowing softly, filled with hidden lives waiting to rise. Each tiny light that will one day drift across the meadow is already there, sleeping under leaves, gathering strength. When they finally awaken, they will turn the night into a galaxy and then vanish again just as quietly, leaving behind the promise of another generation buried below. The night feels different once you know this. Each flicker in the grass is no longer a passing spark but part of a greater rhythm, a patient story unfolding again and again. Beneath the darkness, there is life preparing to shine, and above it, there is light remembering where it came from. In this quiet exchange between earth and sky, the firefly completes its circle, glowing softly, briefly, and perfectly. A reminder that even the smallest things can hold the shape of eternity. When the night grows heavy and the air settles into its quiet rhythm, the light of the fireflies begins to change. Their flashes grow slower, their flights shorter, and the warm glow that once scattered freely through the grass starts to fade. This is the final act of their brief season, a soft closing of nature's curtain. The fields that once pulsed with 1,000 living lights now breathe in stillness. Yet the beauty of their disappearance carries its own kind of peace. It reminds us that all light, no matter how bright, belongs to a larger rhythm of appearing and fading, of shining and resting. For most fireflies, the glowing nights of summer mark the last chapter of their lives. After finding their mates, the males drift lower into the grass, their lights flickering only occasionally. The females lay their eggs quietly in damp soil or along the edges of moss, choosing places soft enough for the next generation to begin. There is no rush, no panic, only calm continuation. Each spark that has danced through the air leaves behind another waiting spark, hidden and still. The night that once seemed alive with motion becomes tender again, filled with invisible promise. Fireflies remind us how delicate life can be. Their entire adult existence spans only a few short weeks, yet during that time they fill the world with radiance. They live quickly but without hurry, as if they know that beauty does not require permanence. Every flash of light is both an ending and a beginning. The moment a firefly glows, it uses a tiny bit of its strength, offering something of itself to the darkness around it. When you realize this, each flicker feels sacred. Every pulse of gold in the air is a gesture of generosity, a quiet sharing of energy with the world before it fades. The meadow remembers even after they are gone. The grasses they rested upon grow taller, and the soil beneath still hums with the next generation waiting to rise. When spring returns and the air grows warm again, Those eggs will hatch into larvae that glow faintly beneath the surface, tiny lanterns preparing to awaken. The cycle will begin again with the same patience and the same gentle purpose. There is comfort in knowing that no light is truly lost. It simply changes form, moving from one life to another, from one night to the next. The world's fireflies are not just scattered across meadows and forests, but across continents, each species with its own rhythm of light. In Japan, they gather near rivers and are celebrated as symbols of love and transience. In the American South, families watch them rise above fields like drifting stars. In parts of Asia, people once believed they were the souls of those who had passed, returning for a moment to remind the living that light never fully leaves. Wherever they appear, fireflies awaken the same quiet awe. Their language of luminescence is understood by everyone, even those who know nothing of science. It speaks directly to that soft, wordless part of us that still remembers wonder. Sometimes, when the night is especially warm and the air still, a few fireflies linger longer than the rest. They drift near the edges of ponds or hover among trees where the air stays moist. Their lights are faint, like the embers of a fading fire. Watching them feels like listening to the last notes of a song before silence takes hold. The darkness that follows isn't empty. It feels full, as though the world is holding its breath in gratitude for the light that has just passed. The beauty of fireflies lies not only in their glow, but in their willingness to fade. They do not cling to the night or fight the dawn. When the first light of morning touches the horizon, they surrender quietly, folding their wings and resting beneath the leaves. The stars above disappear into the same pale sky, and the fireflies below vanish too, as if answering a shared call to sleep. The world brightens, but in that brightness there remains the memory of their glow, a lingering shimmer that feels almost alive. To watch them is to be reminded of our own brief radiance. We too move through seasons of brightness and stillness, giving light in our own ways and then resting when it is time. The firefly's life teaches that beauty doesn't need to last to matter. It only needs to be shared while it exists. The meadow, the forest, and the night all remember. Each summer, the light returns, as gentle and faithful as breath. So when you see the first firefly of the season, let it be a reminder that the simplest moments often carry the deepest wonder. Watch it rise from the grass and drift into the dark. Let its glow find your eyes and slow your thoughts. Somewhere in that small, steady light is the story of the world itself, brief, luminous, and endlessly returning. And when it fades, know that it will come again, just as softly, just as beautifully, to light the next summer night. There are places in the world where night never truly feels dark, not because of street lights or the glow of cities, but because the living light of fireflies gathers in such numbers that it transforms the landscape. In these places, the air itself seems to shimmer, every tree and branch breathing with light. Along riverbanks in Thailand, in mangrove forests near Malaysia, and deep within the Smoky Mountains of North America, entire colonies of fireflies blink together in perfect synchrony. To stand among them is to feel that time itself has slowed to the rhythm of their glow. Thousands of small bodies rise and fall with the pulse of light, and for a few moments the world becomes a living heartbeat made visible. No one can say with certainty how or why they do it. The science is delicate, and even the experts admit that the full answer is part of the mystery. The most accepted thought is that each firefly adjusts its flashing ever so slightly to match its neighbors until all their rhythms align. One insect begins a little sooner, another waits a little longer, and gradually the entire group settles into the same gentle timing. What begins as a scattered collection of lights becomes a single, breathing pattern that rolls across the landscape like waves of gold. It is communication, courtship, and perhaps something even deeper, a kind of unity that cannot be explained by instinct alone. From a distance, these gatherings look almost like storms of light drifting over the trees. Each pulse appears to move, traveling in ripples as though the forest were inhaling and exhaling luminescence. The sight feels both earthly and cosmic, as if the stars had decided to rest on the surface of the world for a night. The silence makes it more powerful. There is no hum of electricity, no sound at all except the faint rustle of leaves. The light comes and goes with the steadiness of breath, and those who witness it often describe the feeling of being part of something alive and ancient, something that doesn't belong to the human world but welcomes it just the same. To the fireflies, the synchronization has practical purpose. Their glowing is still about attraction, about finding a mate, but when they flash together, they create a stronger, more visible signal. A lone light can be lost in the distance, but thousands together can be seen across valleys. The pattern becomes a collective voice, calling through the dark. It is a demonstration of what nature does best, finding strength through harmony, beauty through cooperation. The forest does not compete with itself, it harmonizes. The fireflies seem to understand this instinctively, as though the act of glowing together is its own form of survival. The experience of seeing it cannot easily be described. Many who visit these glowing forests find themselves whispering without realizing it, afraid that sound might break the spell. The ground glimmers faintly as reflections dance on dew and water. The air feels thicker, almost electric yet peaceful. Each flash feels slower than it is, as though time stretches between them. The darkness becomes not something empty to be feared, but something filled with movement, with life, with an awareness that is at once collective and deeply still. Scientists sometimes record these displays with sensitive cameras, slowing the light patterns into motion that can be studied frame by frame. When played back, the fireflies appear to be painting the air, layering their glows into ribbons and spirals. Yet even through the most careful study, something eludes understanding. The perfection of it cannot be reduced to timing or biology alone. It feels too deliberate, too calm. Watching it is like witnessing thought itself, like seeing a quiet mind reflected in nature. For those who live in places where synchronized fireflies appear each year, their return marks the true beginning of summer. People gather in silence near rivers and clearings, carrying no lights, speaking in hushed tones. When the fireflies begin their display, the crowd fades into stillness, every human heartbeat falling into rhythm with the forest's slow glow. Children watch in wide-eyed wonder, and the elderly smile softly, remembering that this light has been pulsing long before their own lives began. For a few brief nights, the boundary between the human and natural world grows thin. Everyone becomes part of the same quiet rhythm. And when it ends, when the last light dims and the forest returns to darkness, what lingers is not sadness but gratitude. The fireflies remind us that harmony exists even in the smallest forms of life. They show us that beauty is not noise or brightness, but pattern and patience. The night feels full, as though the world has just taken a deep breath and released it again. Long after you've left the glowing forest, the rhythm remains inside you. You can feel it in your pulse, hear it in the silence, see it behind your closed eyes. It becomes a memory that never entirely fades, a gentle reminder that even the tiniest lives can come together to make something vast and wordless. The synchronized light of fireflies is not just a natural wonder. It is a lesson in stillness, connection, and the quiet power of being part of something greater than oneself. There are nights when the fireflies do not flash in perfect rhythm, but wander freely through the dark, each one carrying its own tempo. These are the nights that feel personal, the kind of nights that belong to memory more than to the present moment. Somewhere in a backyard, a child presses their face against a window, waiting for the first tiny light to rise from the grass. The air smells of damp earth and lilac, and the world is quiet enough that even the sound of their own breathing seems loud. Then, there it is, the first flicker in the dusk. One small glow, floating upward, like a spark escaping from a dream. In that instant, something inside the watcher softens. It is not just the beauty of the firefly that stirs this feeling, but what it brings with it. Fireflies have a way of summoning memories that are older than thought. They remind us of summer nights spent outside long after bedtime, of bare feet in the grass and laughter that fades into quiet awe. Even now, years later, the sight of a single firefly can return us to that same place of wonder. It is as though the air itself carries those memories, waiting to hand them back whenever we are ready to see. What makes this connection so strong is the kind of light they offer. The firefly's glow is not harsh or constant. It appears, lingers, and fades, allowing the darkness to remain. The light does not conquer the night, it lives within it. That small rhythm of bright and dim seems to echo the way our own thoughts move as we drift towards sleep, rising and falling, glowing and resting. Perhaps that is why fireflies calm us. Their light feels familiar to the quiet parts of the mind, the parts that seek gentleness instead of clarity. In the stillness of a summer night, the world becomes slower. The hum of insects fills the air, and the fireflies drift like slow-moving stars. Their wings make no sound, and their paths are unpredictable, weaving and circling through the dark as though the air itself were guiding them. To watch them is to practice patience. You cannot chase them without losing them, and you cannot hold them for long. The moment you close your hand, the light fades and the magic slips away. So you learn to stay still, to let them come to you, to let the moment unfold at its own pace. That is the lesson every child learns when they first go out into the fields with a jar and a sense of wonder. There is a sweetness in those memories that feels untouched by time. The faint glow inside a jar held close to the heart, the coolness of the glass against the palms, the thrill of watching a tiny creature turn darkness into something beautiful. It is not the capture itself that matters, but the act of noticing. Every light caught, even for a moment, teaches the watcher something about impermanence. The jar glows for a few minutes, maybe an hour, and then the firefly must be set free again. And when it goes, it takes a small part of your wonder with it, leaving behind the gentle ache of something precious that cannot be kept. Even adults who no longer chase them can feel that ache. To see a firefly is to remember a simpler rhythm of life, one that belongs to evenings when time seems slower and every moment felt large. Their light flickers in the same way that our memories do, never steady but always returning when we least expect it. In many cultures, fireflies have been seen as symbols of hope, transformation, or the brief spark of life itself. But to most who see them, they are simply comfort, a soft reminder that the world can still surprise us in quiet ways. When the fireflies appear, even the night changes character. The darkness feels gentler, less like emptiness and more like a living space filled with possibility. The glow does not push away the dark, it shapes it into something welcoming. Standing there among the lights, you realize that beauty is not always in grand things. Sometimes it hides in the smallest, softest movements, in the space between moments, in the simple act of breathing under a sky that has seen it all before. And when the fireflies finally fade, when the night grows still again, and the stars take back their place, what remains is the feeling that something good has just passed through. It leaves a trace on the air, like the echo of laughter or the warmth of a forgotten touch. You know that they will come again next summer, and even though the seasons will turn and the world will change, that quiet glow will always find its way back. The firefly carries not just light but memory, and every time it rises from the grass, it invites us to remember how it feels to wander and how it feels to be still in the presence of something small and perfect. There are evenings in early summer when the air feels almost enchanted, when dusk arrives not as an ending but as an invitation. The sunlight lingers low on the horizon, and the edges of the world begin to soften. The first calls of frogs drift across the ponds, and the grass sighs beneath a slow wind. Then, as shadows lengthen, the fireflies begin to rise. Their lights appear tentatively at first, scattered sparks that seem to test the air. But soon their glow deepens, and they begin their mysterious conversation of light. Each flash is deliberate, carrying meaning through the stillness, weaving invisible threads between earth and sky. If you watch closely, you will notice that no two fireflies seem to follow the same rhythm. Some glow steadily for a heartbeat before fading, while others blink quickly in short, playful bursts. The males drift higher, sweeping their light across the darkness like quiet searchers, while the females remain low among the grass, watching, waiting, and answering only when the right pattern finds them. Their entire language is silent, written not in sound but in timing, in intervals of brightness that our eyes can see, but our minds can only half translate. To the human observer, it may look random, but within that seeming chaos lies a structure of astonishing precision. Each species has its own distinct pattern, a rhythm as unique as a fingerprint. Some blink once every few seconds, others twice in rapid succession, some with pauses so long that it feels as if they have vanished before they flash again. To a firefly, those small details are everything. A wrong rhythm means nothing. The right one means a chance to be seen. In that dark meadow, where countless signals float through the air, each glow is a voice calling out, and every answer is a soft promise returned. The exchange is not hurried. It is slow, graceful, and deeply patient, a conversation that stretches across the night in waves of light. When a pair finally meets, the world seems to hold its breath for them. Their lights merge, their paths cross, and for a moment, it feels as though the entire meadow pauses to watch their quiet union. It is a kind of beauty that resists explanation, an ancient ritual carried out with all the subtlety of a heartbeat. But not every glow in the dark is an invitation of love. Nature, as gentle as it may seem beneath the starlight, always holds its small deceptions. In some species, Certain females mimic the flash patterns of others, luring unsuspecting males close. The hopeful light that draws near becomes their meal instead of their mate. Even in the calmest corners of the night, survival and danger move together, and light becomes both a language and a trap. It is strange to think that something so beautiful could also conceal such cunning, but this too is part of the balance that makes life endure. The same glow that can summon companionship can also summon an ending. And yet, the meadow remains peaceful. The fireflies continue their glowing exchanges as if unaware of tragedy or triumph. They carry on with the same calm persistence, flashing and fading in patterns that seem to echo the rhythm of breathing. Their communication is a reminder that connection often happens without words. It is enough to be seen, to reach through the dark, and to find a single answering light. The night does not need noise to feel alive. It hums quietly with recognition. To sit among them is to feel yourself becoming part of the language. You start to notice the small spaces between flashes, the gentle pauses that give the light its meaning. It feels almost as though time itself is pulsing with the same rhythm. The sky above, still holding the faint traces of day, mirrors the field below, both filled with distant glowing bodies. The stars blink their slow, eternal light, and the fireflies echo it for a little while on earth, like the sky has grown roots. Eventually, the conversation begins to fade. The flashes become less frequent, the air grows cooler, and the sounds of the night take on a deeper, slower tone. But even as the lights vanish one by one, their rhythm seems to linger, etched into the darkness itself. When you finally leave the meadow, you carry it with you, the silent music of light still playing softly behind your eyes. What the fireflies teach in those quiet hours is simple but profound. Every signal, every flicker, is a reminder that connection can be gentle, that beauty can exist without noise or permanence. Their light lives only for a moment, but in that moment, it fills the entire world. When the night grows still again, and the last glow fades into the dark, it feels less like an ending, and more like a whisper of gratitude from the earth itself, a promise that the lights will return, and that the quiet language of fireflies will go on, night after night, in endless, glowing conversation. When you look at a firefly's flash, it is easy to imagine it as something random, a simple blink in the dark, but the truth is far more intricate. Each pulse of light is precisely timed, measured by an internal rhythm that feels almost musical. It is not only communication between two creatures, but also a delicate act of perception. To a firefly, the world is not made of constant light and shadow like ours. It is made of intervals, of moments that appear and vanish. Their eyes are built to read time itself. What we see as a fleeting spark, they see as a complete sentence. Their vision captures the pauses between flashes with astonishing accuracy, and those pauses are the essence of their world. A firefly's eyes are large and luminous, taking up much of its head. In the dim light of dusk, those eyes are perfectly suited to the patterns of the night. They are covered with tiny layers that help focus faint light, so even a distant flicker can be detected. What we might dismiss as an invisible blink, a firefly can see and interpret instantly. They do not see their surroundings as still or solid, but as a field of movement where brightness is constantly in motion. Their minds are tuned to intervals the way ours are tuned to sound, and the light around them becomes their language of rhythm and pattern. When a male drifts through the air, his flash is not only an announcement but also a question. He sends out a pulse and waits. If he sees an answering glow, he measures the exact delay between his flash and the one that follows. Too fast, and it might not be meant for him. Too slow, and it belongs to another species. Only when the timing falls perfectly between those two boundaries does he approach. To him, that specific rhythm is the mark of recognition, a signal of belonging. It is a code that only she can answer, written not in color or sound but in the cadence of seconds. For the female, the task is no less precise. She watches from below, hidden in the grass, waiting for a flash that matches her species' rhythm. When she answers, she waits for the right heartbeat of darkness between them before responding. The entire conversation exists within these tiny pockets of time. If a predator were watching, the exchange would seem chaotic, random, impossible to follow. But to the fireflies, the night is organized, full of invisible order that only their eyes and instincts can perceive. In a way, this attention to timing connects them to the greater rhythms of the world. Every living thing follows some kind of cycle. The ocean moves with tides, the moon with its phases, the forest with its seasons, and the human heart with its steady beat. Fireflies have simply woven time itself into their way of being. Their existence is shaped not by space but by tempo, by the precise placement of light within darkness. It makes their glow feel less like a trick of biology and more like a kind of living music. If you were to slow their flashes down and chart them across a page, they would look like notes in a melody. The longer pauses would form rests. The brighter bursts would create accents. It is a language that feels almost audible, as if the air itself were singing in patterns too quiet for our ears. To stand among them is to stand inside that silent song. You can feel the rhythm without hearing it, sense its balance even if you cannot decipher its meaning. The body seems to understand what the mind cannot, and without realizing it, your breathing begins to fall into the same gentle rhythm. Perhaps this is why fireflies seem to calm us so deeply. Their light is not frantic or random. It flows in cycles that mirror our own quietest moments, those times when thought slows and awareness widens. Watching them, you begin to realize that the night is not static. It is full of patterns we rarely notice, each one measured by its own clock. The firefly simply makes this visible, revealing the slow pulse of nature through a tiny glowing body. The field where they flash becomes a kind of living metronome, keeping time for the entire landscape. You can feel it in the way the crickets fall into rhythm with their chirps, or how the soft wind through the trees seems to sway in step. Everything begins to move together. So, the longer you stand in that space, the more the boundaries blur, until you are not an observer at all but part of the rhythm itself, a small flicker of consciousness surrounded by countless flickers of light. When the night finally deepens and the fireflies fade, the rhythm remains. You carry it quietly, like a slow heartbeat under your skin. Their light might vanish with the dawn, but the memory of that timing stays, a soft reminder that even the smallest creatures live in harmony with the world's unseen tempo. The fireflies, with their measured flashes and patient pauses, have simply learned how to make that hidden rhythm glow. Every flash of a firefly's light is a message, but it is also a gesture of hope. Somewhere across the field, in the dim air of a summer evening, another firefly is waiting to see it. Each light is both a question and an answer, both invitation and reply. It is a language that began long before words, carried not by sound but by rhythm, by patience, by the courage to be visible for just a moment in the dark. Theirs is a love story told entirely through light, one that unfolds silently under the watchful gaze of the stars. When the male begins his flight, his glow is steady and deliberate. He moves through the twilight, his light pulsing in a pattern known only to his kind. His wings hum softly, stirring the air in gentle waves as he follows an invisible map of scents and signals. He flashes once, twice, then waits, the silence between pulses stretching like the space between heartbeats. For a few long moments there is no reply, only the sound of the night deepening. Then, from somewhere near the ground, a faint glimmer rises, answering him with perfect timing. She has seen him. The connection is wordless but absolute. They find each other through the air, guided not by sight alone but by timing and instinct. The pattern continues, a conversation that repeats until the distance between them closes. It is slow, unhurried, and full of meaning. For the Fireflies, this exchange is not mere attraction but survival. It is the passing on of life itself, written in flashes across the dark. Every blink is part of an ancient story retold each summer, the continuation of a rhythm that has endured through ages. What makes it all the more remarkable is its fragility. So much depends on a few seconds of light. If the rhythm falters or the glow goes unseen, the chance is lost. The meadow may be full of lights, but each pair must find harmony in the noise, matching frequencies amid the sea of signals. Somehow, despite the chaos, they succeed. The darkness between them becomes their meeting place, a space that holds promise rather than fear. In that small pocket of time, they are the entire universe to each other, two bright sparks suspended in a world that briefly forgets its boundaries. When they meet, the glow becomes steady, softer now, less a call and more a quiet sigh. The air feels different around them, warmer, stiller, as if the night itself is listening. Their lights merge for a time, fading and brightening in gentle waves. And then, just as naturally, the rhythm slows. Their purpose is fulfilled, and soon they will return to the soil to leave behind the beginning of another cycle. Their love story ends not with farewell, but with transformation. To those who watch from afar, it may look simple. Two small flashes of light, a brief dance, a fading glow, yet beneath that simplicity lies an extraordinary truth. The entire species depends on that meeting. Their light carries the code of life, the promise of renewal. It is love reduced to its purest form, stripped of complexity and ornament, existing only in the exchange of recognition. They do not need to understand what they are doing to make it beautiful. Perhaps that is why watching fireflies feels so moving to us. Their glow mirrors the way we reach for one another, not with words but with something quieter and deeper. Every light we see in the dark speaks of longing, of connection, of the need to be seen by someone who understands. We all send out signals of our own, hoping for an answering glow. In the quiet meadow, the dance continues. The air fills with 1,000 tiny courtships, each as unique as the creatures themselves, yet all following the same ancient script. The lights flicker and fade, rise and fall, weaving a living constellation across the field. Somewhere within that glowing sea, two more lights find each other, their rhythm aligning, their story beginning again. When dawn approaches, the fireflies retreat, their work done for another night. The love that filled the darkness remains, not in sight, but in memory, carried forward by the new lives waiting beneath the soil. The world brightens, and the meadow returns to green, but hidden within the ground are the silent echoes of those luminous conversations. Love, it seems, leaves traces even after the light has faded. The next time the fireflies rise, the cycle will begin again, their glow as constant and brief as the heartbeat of summer, their silent love stories written once more upon the night. There is a certain time of year when the world begins to prepare for their arrival. The evenings grow long and warm, the grass deepens in color, and the nights start to hum with soft, unseen life. Somewhere beneath the soil, the next generation of fireflies stirs. For months they have slept, cocooned in darkness, waiting for the moment when the world would call them back into the open. And when the first true warmth of summer arrives, when the days hold the scent of water and new growth, the fireflies awaken. It does not happen all at once. The rhythm of the firefly's life is gentle, attuned to temperature, to soil, to the slow unfolding of the season. The air must feel right, the moisture must cling to the ground, and the daylight must begin to fade just enough for the shadows to lengthen. Only then do they emerge, tiny and patient, carrying with them the memory of the cycle that brought them here. It is not a coincidence that they appear when the nights grow mild and the world slows its pace. Fireflies are creatures of perfect timing, and their glow is one of the surest signs that summer has truly begun. In most places, their first lights appear in late spring, just after the rains have softened the earth. They rise in small numbers at first, flickering faintly at the edges of fields, their lights like the hesitant notes of an overture. Over the following weeks, their numbers swell until the night seems filled with motion. To those who live by their rhythm, these first evenings of firefly light are cause for quiet joy. The farmers, the children, and the dreamers all look out across the grass and know that the season has changed. Fireflies measure time differently than we do. To them, the span of their brief adult life is enough. They do not count the years or the passing of seasons. Their sense of time lives in temperature, in the softness of the air, in the length of the night. When we see their light, we are witnessing not only their presence but also the perfect alignment of countless natural forces that have converged to allow it. The world must be just so for them to appear. The soil must be moist but not flooded, the nights warm but not stifling, the moon not too bright. They depend on the balance of the earth itself, a harmony that speaks quietly through their glow. Each region of the world has its own clock for fireflies. In some places, they begin to rise in May. In others, they wait until June or even July. The timing changes, but the feeling never does. When they appear, it always feels as though something ancient has returned, as though the earth is breathing again after a long silence. The air hums with quiet energy, and every flash feels like a heartbeat counted by the planet itself. Their glow becomes a calendar for those who pay attention. The first light means the start of summer's fullness. The peak of their display marks the height of warmth and life. And when their numbers begin to thin and their lights grow dim, it means the turning of the season has begun. It is a natural clock that does not tick or chime, but breathes, steady and unhurried. There is comfort in their timing. While so much of the modern world moves with speed and precision, the firefly reminds us that not all time must be measured in seconds. Some time belongs to the earth, to the slow rhythm of growth and rest. The firefly keeps that rhythm faithfully, returning each year as the days stretch and the nights grow tender. When we see their glow, we are reminded that the world still knows how to wait. To watch their return is to see time made visible, not as a straight line but as a circle that closes and begins again. It is a reminder that the world, in all its complexity, continues to move to a quiet, ancient beat. When the fireflies come, they bring not only beauty but reassurance, a soft promise that life still knows how to renew itself. As they rise from the grass each summer, their light is not just a display of nature's wonder, but a sign that the world is still in rhythm, that even after long months of stillness, something small and bright will always find its way back to the night. Beneath the softness of summer fields, long before the glowing adults take to the night sky, the life of the firefly begins in the soil. It is a world that few ever see, a damp and quiet realm where time moves slowly and light feels like a distant dream. Here, between the roots and under the fallen leaves, the larvae of fireflies live for most of their lives. They are small, nearly transparent, and yet even in this early stage they already carry the same luminous gift that will one day make them shine. Their glow is faint, a subtle pulse that flickers from their bodies like a secret heartbeat. It is not a signal to attract or communicate, but a warning. In the dark, where everything is hungry and small lives depend on caution, their light says one simple thing: do not eat me. The larvae are patient hunters. They spend months, sometimes years, crawling slowly through the earth in search of food. They feed on snails, slugs, and worms, creatures that share their shadowed world. When they find a meal, they use a special fluid to paralyze their prey, a mixture so precise that it can still the movement of a much larger animal without destroying it. It is a strange kind of mercy, born of survival, and in the silent soil it has gone on for millions of years without witness. Though they are small, the larvae shape the life of the ecosystem around them, keeping balance in the hidden layers of the earth. Their light is constant in its quiet rhythm. If you could dig gently into the ground on a warm night and see them without harming their world, you might find dozens of tiny points glowing beneath the surface. It would look like the night sky reflected in miniature, each flicker a small echo of the stars above. It is a strange and humbling sight to imagine that even the soil is not truly dark. Every inch of it holds life that glows softly, unseen but steadfast. As the months pass, the larvae molt and grow, shedding their old skins as they prepare for transformation. During the winter, they burrow deeper, seeking warmth in the cold earth. There they rest in stillness, waiting for the first signs of spring. The rhythm of their lives follows the rhythm of the world above them. When the ice melts and the rains return, they begin to move again, feeding, gathering energy, preparing for the change that will bring them into the light. When the time comes, the larvae build small chambers of soil and silk. Inside these tiny shelters, they curl in on themselves and begin the process of metamorphosis. Their soft bodies dissolve and reshape, guided by the ancient code written in their cells. Weeks later, when the air outside has grown heavy with the scent of summer, the newly formed adults emerge. Their wings unfold for the first time, thin and delicate, shimmering in the dark. They leave behind the world of soil for one of air and starlight. What is remarkable is how even in this unseen stage, the firefly never forgets its light. The glow that protected it underground continues through its transformation, connecting the dark earth to the bright sky. The same chemical reaction that made its larvae shimmer faintly in the soil will soon light entire meadows with living stars. There is a kind of poetry in that continuity, a reminder that even the smallest beginnings hold the essence of what is to come. It is easy to think of the firefly only as the fleeting glow of summer nights, but its life is far longer and more complex than that brief display. For nearly all of its existence, it lives in darkness, working, growing, waiting. The light we see is only the final chapter of a much longer story. Perhaps that is what makes their glow feel so moving. It is the result of years of quiet labor, of patience and survival, of countless small moments spent in the silence of the soil. When we see them drifting through the warm air, we are not just seeing a creature of the moment. We are witnessing the culmination of a journey that began deep underground, in the cool, hidden heart of the earth. Their glow carries the memory of that darkness, and it shines not in defiance of it, but because of it. The firefly's light is a celebration of persistence, of quiet growth, of the beauty that can come from places no one ever sees. Beneath every glowing field, there is an invisible world of tiny lights waiting for their turn to rise, and each summer they keep their promise, emerging from the soil to remind the night that even the deepest dark is never truly without light. Far from the meadows and forests where fireflies fill the summer air with light, there are places where their glow never fades, even in complete darkness. Deep within caves, where the sun has never reached and the air feels cool and heavy, another kind of firefly makes its home. They are not quite the same as those that drift over the grass on warm nights, but they belong to the same luminous family. These are the glowworms, cousins of the firefly, who have chosen to live where the world is silent and eternal twilight reigns. Their light does not flicker across open skies, but hangs like constellations suspended from stone ceilings. To step into one of these caves is to step into another world. The ground beneath is damp and uneven, and the sound of dripping water echoes softly from every wall. The air smells of minerals and age. As your eyes adjust to the dark, faint points of blue-green light begin to appear above you. They are small at first, like the afterimage of stars behind your eyelids. Then, as your vision sharpens, you realize the ceiling is covered in hundreds, sometimes thousands of these tiny lanterns. Each one belongs to a glowworm, a larva clinging to the cave roof, glowing patiently as it waits for food to come its way. The glow is more than decoration. It is a lure. Each glowworm spins fine threads of silk that dangle toward the cave floor. Beads of sticky liquid form along each thread, catching and holding the faint reflections of their light. To an unsuspecting insect drifting into the cave, these threads look like shimmering pathways or moonlit water. Drawn by the glow, the insect flutters closer until it touches one of the sticky drops. In an instant, it is caught. The glowworm senses the vibration and reels in its prey, pulling it upward toward its mouth. It is a patient hunter, waiting for hours or even days for a meal. Its light burns constantly, a soft promise in the dark that life still exists here, hidden but thriving. In some parts of the world, entire caves are illuminated by these creatures. In New Zealand, where they are most famous, the ceilings of certain caverns glow like a night sky turned upside down. Visitors who float through these caves on quiet boats describe the sight as otherworldly. The still water mirrors the glow above, creating the illusion that they are drifting through a river of stars. The only sound is the gentle drip of water and the faint movement of oars. It is a place where time seems to pause, where light and life have found a way to endure in the absence of the Sunday. The glowworm's light, like that of their firefly cousins, is created through chemistry. Inside their bodies, oxygen meets with luciferin and luciferase, producing the same cool, efficient glow. Yet their light feels different, not warm or golden, but deep and tranquil, a blue-green radiance that fills the space with calm. It is a color that seems to belong more to the ocean than to the land, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the earth, nature remembers how to make beauty from solitude. Their lives are brief and fragile, shaped entirely by their strange home. When they mature, the larvae transform into delicate adults that live only a few days, just long enough to reproduce and ensure the next generation of glowing hunters. For a short while, their lights fill the cave with even greater brilliance before dimming again as the cycle begins anew. The cave remains, timeless and waiting, its roof once more alive with the faint shimmer of young lights. There is something deeply moving about their persistence. In a place where sunlight has never touched, where the air is cold and still, these small creatures continue to create their own day. Their glow asks for nothing and gives everything. It sustains them, protects them, and transforms the dark around them into something sacred. Watching their light is like listening to a whisper from the ancient world, a reminder that life has always found a way to turn darkness into wonder. If you stand in one of those caves long enough, surrounded by the quiet shimmer of their light, you begin to feel small in the best possible way. You realize that illumination does not belong only to the sky, that the stars are not limited to the heavens. There are constellations beneath the earth too, living, breathing, and waiting in the silence. The glowworms, patient and eternal in their rhythm, remind us that light is not the absence of darkness but its companion. Even in the deepest caves, the night finds a way to shine. Long before a firefly takes to the air, before its wings ever touch the wind or its light fills the night, its story begins as something small and nearly invisible. The eggs of a firefly are laid gently into the folds of damp soil, tucked beneath leaves or hidden under blades of grass. They are almost impossible to see with the naked eye, tiny spheres of life waiting in silence. Yet even here, at the very beginning, there is light. Some species of firefly eggs glow faintly in the darkness, a soft radiance that pulses through the soil like the quietest breath. The glow is gentle, more like a sigh than a spark, but it is there all the same, proof that the light begins before the creature itself. No one knows for certain why these eggs glow. Some scientists believe the faint light is a defense, a message to passing predators that these small pearls are not worth eating. Others think it is simply a byproduct of the same chemistry that will one day make the adult shine. Whatever the reason, it is a marvel to imagine tiny lights sleeping beneath the earth, scattered like seeds of illumination waiting for their moment to awaken. The soil above them is heavy, but the world inside each egg is full of motion and potential. Within those shells, the beginnings of wings and lanterns and lives are forming in slow, perfect silence. As the days pass, the eggs absorb the rhythm of the world around them. They feel the warmth of the sun through the ground, the coolness of the rain, the tremors of distant footsteps. Each sensation is a kind of lullaby that prepares them for what comes next. When the time is right, a tiny larva emerges, pale and soft at first, then darker as it finds its strength. It carries within it the faint memory of that early light, the one that shimmered through the egg before the world even knew it was alive. There is something poetic about the idea of light before life, of radiance existing before the creature that will one day carry it. It suggests that the glow is not simply a tool or a decoration, but something more essential. The firefly's light is not learned or acquired. It is inherited, passed down like a secret through generations. It begins before the first breath, before the first flight, before the first night sky. The light is part of its nature, a promise written in its cells, waiting to be fulfilled. If you could kneel in a quiet field on a warm night after rain and look close enough, you might see them, tiny flickers beneath the surface, faint and rhythmic, scattered through the soil like distant stars. It would look as though the earth itself were dreaming, as if the ground were filled with thoughts of light that would one day rise into the air. In that hidden glow lies the story of every firefly that will ever exist, beginning long before it is seen. The glowing eggs last only for a few weeks before they hatch, but those weeks are the first quiet chapter in a much longer journey. Above them, the world is full of sound, the chirp of crickets, the hum of frogs, the rustle of leaves, but below, all is still except for those soft pulses of light. It is a kind of stillness that feels alive, the way a heartbeat does when everything else is quiet. The firefly begins in darkness, not to escape it, but to understand it. When it finally emerges, its light will not be an act of defiance, but an act of harmony, a continuation of the glow it has carried since the very start. Thinking of those glowing eggs hidden beneath the soil gives a strange comfort. It means that while the surface world sleeps through winter and rain, there is always something luminous happening underneath. The earth holds its tiny secrets of light, nurturing them until they are ready to rise. And when they do, when the fields are once again filled with floating lanterns, the glow we see above is not new at all. It is ancient, the same light that once shimmered inside the earth, reborn each year to remind us that beginnings do not always happen in the open. Sometimes they happen quietly, far below the surface, where life learns to shine before it ever learns to live. In the hush of a warm night, not all lights in the grass mean peace. Among the countless honest flickers of firefly courtship, there are a few that carry deception instead of desire. Nature, as gentle as it may seem beneath the summer moon, is never without its secrets. For every light that calls out in love, there is another that calls out in disguise. Some fireflies have learned to mimic the language of others, using the same soft flashes not to attract a mate, but to lure an unsuspecting visitor into danger. It is a strange, quiet trick of survival, a kind of artistry that hides within beauty itself. In the tall grass, a female of the Futurus species sits perfectly still, her body blending into the shadows. Around her, the males of another species, Photinus, drift lazily through the dark, flashing their signals into the air. Each male sends out his particular pattern, hoping for a reply from a female of his kind. The Futurus female watches closely. She knows the rhythm of their language. She knows it well enough to imitate it. When she sees the pattern she wants, she answers with a single perfect reply, mimicking the exact timing and brightness that tells him she is near. He believes her. Her light seems true. He flies toward her glow, certain that he has been seen. When he arrives, there is no greeting. The glow fades, the movement stops, and the air grows still. Within moments, the false signal reveals its purpose. The mimic has caught him, feeding on the body of the very creature she imitated. It is not cruelty, not malice, only instinct. Instinct. In a world of brief summers and shorter lives, every moment must serve survival. The deception that seems so cunning to us is to her simply another form of life's quiet persistence. She too must feed and endure. Her borrowed light, used so skillfully, ensures that her own glow continues for another night. This predatory dance has fascinated scientists for centuries. It is one of the rare examples of aggressive mimicry, a strategy found throughout nature. Owls that imitate prey, flowers that resemble food, and here, a small insect that steals another's song of love. To the firefly, the language of light is everything. To mimic it is to borrow a soul's voice. And in the still dark of the meadow, this theft becomes something hauntingly beautiful, even as it serves its grim purpose. There is a strange poetry in how the firefly's world balances affection and danger. The same flash that can bring two together can also bring one to an end. The difference lies only in intention, though the light itself never changes. It shines with the same perfection, whether used for love or survival. In that way, the firefly's world mirrors our own. Light is not good or bad, it is simply light. It is the use that gives it meaning. When the night is full and the air heavy with humidity, these hunters are most active. Their glow is mesmerizing, so similar to the others that it would take a keen and patient eye to tell them apart. To us, all the lights look pure and harmless, scattered across the meadow like stars that have come to rest on Earth. But the fireflies know better. They understand that even the most beautiful language can be twisted. Still, they flash on, unafraid, trusting that the need to connect is worth the risk. There is something quietly powerful in that truth. The fireflies continue to send their signals into the dark, knowing that the dark sometimes answers with deceit, yet they do not stop. The males continue to fly, and the females continue to answer, because to be silent would be to disappear. It is better to risk danger than to abandon the song entirely. And so the meadow remains alive with light, with hope, and with the soft shadow of predation moving quietly among it. When dawn begins to rise, and the glow fades into morning, the mimic's work ends. She hides once more in the grass, her lantern dim, her purpose fulfilled for the night. Around her, the world stirs again, unaware of what has passed beneath the cover of darkness. The air is heavy with the scent of dew, and the meadow returns to its peace. Yet the memory of what happened lingers in the soil and in the quiet hum of the earth. Light, in all its forms, has done what it must. The story of the mimic firefly is not a cruel one. It is simply another verse in the long song of survival. It reminds us that even in nature's gentlest scenes, there are shadows that move in silence. The deception is not an interruption of beauty, but part of it, woven into the same rhythm that governs everything else. The fireflies flash on, their lights rising and falling through the night, unaware that somewhere among them, a single glow may hold a secret. And perhaps that is what makes the firefly's world so endlessly fascinating. It is both mercy and hunger, hope and danger, love and trickery, all glowing softly together in the same breath of summer. To glow is to give something away. Every pulse of light that shines from a firefly's lantern costs a measure of its strength. Each spark is a quiet offering of energy, drawn from food, from air, from the slow labor of its small body. When the night is full of their glimmers, the beauty of it hides a truth that is harder to see. The glow that fills the meadows with wonder is not effortless. It comes at a cost, one the firefly accepts without hesitation, because to shine is the only way it can be known. Inside the lantern at the tip of the firefly's abdomen, the chemistry of light unfolds in silence. Oxygen enters the cells, meeting luciferin and luciferase, a combination so elegant that nearly all the energy becomes light instead of heat. It is nature's perfect efficiency. But even perfection demands payment. To create light, the firefly must use its reserves of oxygen and fuel, and though the reaction wastes almost nothing, the cost adds up. Every flash, every signal sent into the dark, draws from a limited store of life. In a way, the firefly burns itself slowly for the sake of connection. Its glow is not just decoration, it is a call to be seen, a message written into the night air. Without it, no one would answer, so the firefly gives freely, again and again, until its energy begins to fade. Its life is measured not by days or distance, but by the rhythm of its own light. When the glow stops, so does the story. There is a kind of tenderness in that sacrifice. The firefly does not seem to hesitate, does not conserve its light out of fear of exhaustion. It shines until it cannot. The effort is small but constant, a devotion written into its very being. In its short life, it spends everything it has for a purpose greater than itself. To us, that purpose may look like beauty, but to the firefly, it is survival. To attract a mate, to pass on life, to continue the cycle that has carried its kind through countless summers. Each pulse of light is both an act of endurance and a confession of vulnerability. If you watch a firefly closely, you will see moments of stillness between its flashes. These pauses are not just silence, they are recovery. The tiny body must rest, refuel, and wait before it can shine again. Those moments of darkness are part of the rhythm too, as essential as the glow itself. Without them, the firefly would exhaust its strength too quickly and fade before its time. It is in this balance of shining and resting that the firefly's wisdom lies. It teaches that even the brightest light must know when to pause. Humans, too, burn themselves for light in their own way. We give time and energy to the things that make us visible to one another, the work, the words, the moments of care. Like the firefly, we spend our strength trying to connect, to be understood, to find someone who answers our signal in the dark. There is beauty in that, but also fragility. To give too much without rest is to risk fading too soon. The firefly's pauses remind us that even light needs breath. As the night deepens and the air grows heavy, the fireflies slow their rhythm. Their glows become less frequent, softer, as though the entire meadow were exhaling at once. Each tiny spark still carries the same meaning, but it feels quieter now, more personal. The field is no longer a sea of glittering lights, but a constellation of soft whispers. It is as if each firefly, tired from its work, is content to let the darkness reclaim a little more of the sky. The cost of their glow is part of its grace. The energy spent is never wasted. It becomes the language of summer, the rhythm of warm nights, the fleeting beauty that will return again next year. Each firefly burns through its short life, and yet their species endures, because in giving everything, they keep the story alive. the light that cost them their strength gives the rest of the world a memory of wonder. By dawn, their glow will fade completely, and the air will be still once more. But their light lingers in the mind like a gentle afterimage, a reminder of what it means to give fully, to shine even when the night asks much in return. The firefly never questions the price of its brightness. It glows because it must, because the act of lighting the dark is worth whatever it takes. And in that, there is a lesson as soft and profound as the glow itself. To shine is to spend, but the world is brighter for it. There was a time when summer nights were filled with their light, when every field and garden shimmered with 1,000 soft lanterns drifting in slow, unhurried rhythm. The fireflies seemed endless then, rising like tiny stars over the darkened grass. Children would chase them barefoot through the dusk, laughing as the air glowed with living sparks. But in many places now, the nights are quieter, darker, and emptier. The gentle light that once marked the beginning of summer has started to fade from the world. The fireflies are vanishing, not all at once, but little by little, year after year, until some places that once glowed with life have become still. Their disappearance is not sudden, and it is easy to miss if you are not looking closely. The causes are many and tangled together, a web of small changes that together make survival harder. Cities grow brighter each night, their street lamps burning through the hours when fireflies once thrived. Artificial light confuses their signals. The delicate rhythm of their flashes, the silent love language they have followed for millions of years, is drowned in a flood of brightness. To them, the world has become too noisy to hear. When the darkness they depend on is erased, their songs of light cannot find their way. The places where fireflies live are also shrinking. Fields are cut down for roads and houses, forests replaced by fences and walls. The soft, damp soil where their larvae once glowed now lies beneath concrete or dries beneath the weight of heat and drought. They need moisture and stillness, and the modern world gives them little of either. Pesticides that keep gardens neat also strip the land of the small creatures the larvae feed on. In the name of order and progress, the quiet corners where light once lived are slowly disappearing. It is difficult to notice what is fading until it is gone. Most people do not think of fireflies until the moment they realize they have not seen one in years. Their absence is subtle, a missing shimmer rather than a silence. The night feels the same at first, but it is not. There is a depth missing, a pulse that once made the dark feel alive. In that absence lies something mournful, as if the land itself has forgotten one of its softest songs. Yet there is still hope, because the fireflies have not vanished everywhere. In the few places where the nights remain dark and the fields remain damp, they continue to rise in numbers that look almost impossible. In those rare spots, people gather to watch them, standing quietly in the glow, moved by a beauty that asks nothing in return. It is a fragile wonder, and those who witness it understand instinctively that it must be protected. To preserve the firefly is to preserve something ancient and essential, something that connects the pulse of the living earth to the rhythm of our own hearts. If the world could grow darker again, not in spirit, but in light, it might give them a chance to return. The night does not need to be so bright. The stars do not need competition. In the silence of unlit fields, the fireflies could find their voices once more. They would rise again, glimmering over ponds and meadows, their light reminding us that the natural world does not need to shout to be heard. It speaks in small things, in flashes and pauses, in patience. It is easy to believe that their disappearance is permanent, but the firefly's story has always been one of endurance. They have survived ice ages and storms, and the endless turning of time. If the earth is kind to them again, they will return. The light is still inside the soil, waiting as it always has for the darkness to welcome it. The world only needs to make room for it again. When the fireflies vanish, it is not only the insects we lose. It is a kind of magic that disappears from the edges of memory. Their glow is a bridge between science and wonder, between earth and sky, between the living and the dreaming. To lose that is to lose a part of the night's soul. But if we listen to the quiet, if we let the dark be dark again, their light will find its way back. The fireflies are patient. They have always been patient. They are waiting for the world to remember how to look up at the stars and still notice the small ones that rise from the grass. Darkness is not the absence of life, but the canvas that allows it to be seen. Fireflies understand this in a way that feels almost sacred. They depend on the night as much as the night depends on them. When the world grows dark enough, their light comes alive, and the air fills with a soft language that cannot be spoken in daylight. Each tiny lantern that flickers across the meadow is a voice in the great quiet, a pulse of meaning that needs shadow to exist. Without the darkness, the light is lost. The modern world, though, has forgotten how to be dark. Cities glow all through the night, painting the sky with artificial dawn. Even in quiet towns, the soft glare of street lamps spills into fields where fireflies once gathered. The light that comforts us blinds them. Their delicate rhythm of flashes becomes invisible against the electric hum that fills the air. What we call progress has made it harder for them to be seen. The darkness they once trusted has been thinned and scattered, and with it, a part of the firefly's world has disappeared. To them, the night is not an empty stage, but a partner in their dance. Their light is meant to bloom against shadow, each flicker a conversation carried through the quiet air. When we take away the dark, we take away their voice. Imagine standing in a bright room and trying to see the stars. You could look up for hours and find only emptiness. That is how the firefly must feel beneath our constant glow. It is not that they have forgotten how to shine, it is that their shining no longer matters where the night cannot hold it. Still, the firefly's connection to darkness is not only practical, it is spiritual in its quiet way. The contrast between light and dark, between glow and stillness, is what makes their world beautiful. The night gives their glow shape, makes it meaningful. In complete brightness, light has no edges. It becomes a flood, and everything drowns in sameness. But when darkness wraps around it, the smallest glimmer feels infinite. The firefly's world reminds us that illumination is not about conquering the dark, but about living within it. There is comfort in that thought. The dark does not have to be feared. It holds the stars, the moon, and the countless creatures who thrive in its calm. Fireflies have known this forever. They rise when the last traces of daylight fade, unafraid of the unknown that surrounds them. They trust that their light will be enough. And it always is. They do not seek to outshine the night, only to share it, to make it breathe and shimmer. Their glow is a kind of peace, a reminder that beauty does not need to dominate to exist. When you stand in a place untouched by the reach of streetlights, where the night returns to its natural depth, you begin to see what the fireflies have always known. The darkness hums with quiet life. Every rustle of the leaves, every whisper of the wind feels alive. Then, almost as if in answer, the fireflies appear. One, then two, then dozens, until the world seems to inhale and exhale light. You realize then that darkness is not the opposite of light, but its companion. One gives the other meaning. The firefly's dependence on darkness teaches us something gentle and necessary. We need contrast to see beauty. We need silence to hear. We need stillness to understand movement. The night, like rest, gives shape to all things that shine. Perhaps that is why watching fireflies brings such calm. It feels like a lesson whispered by the earth itself, that light and dark are not enemies, but partners in the same quiet dance. When the lights of the human world finally fade at dawn, the fireflies rest, their glow dimming until it disappears into the warmth of the grass. They do not mourn the loss of their light, because they know it will return with the night. They live in the balance between darkness and radiance, giving both their due. For as long as there are places where the night can still fall freely, the fireflies will rise again. And as long as they rise, they will remind us that the world does not need constant brightness to be full of wonder. It only needs room for the dark to breathe. Across the world, from tropical jungles to quiet fields, the soft language of firefly light speaks in many different accents. Though their glow looks the same from a distance, each species has its own pattern, its own rhythm, and even its own color. The world holds over 2,000 kinds of fireflies, and each one carries a slightly different hue of magic. In some places, their glow is a deep, almost golden amber. In others, it is green like new leaves or pale like moonlight on water. A few shine with a bluish tint, cool and mysterious, as if they borrowed their light from the sea. Their diversity is quiet but vast, a reflection of how many ways nature can find to say the same thing. I am here. Every region that holds them tells a slightly different story through their light. In the wetlands of Southeast Asia, whole trees come alive as thousands of fireflies gather together, their glow shimmering in perfect synchrony. The branches pulse with light, as though the forest itself were breathing. Along the rivers of Japan, their glow is soft and solemn, celebrated as a symbol of love and impermanence. In the meadows of North America, they rise from the grass in lazy spirals, flickering in no particular order, filling the air with quiet chaos that somehow feels like peace. Even in the humid corners of Africa and the rainforests of South America, their light continues to shine in its own local rhythm, each species tuned to its own corner of the earth. Their colors and flashes are shaped by where they live. The wavelength of their light changes depending on temperature, humidity, and the chemistry of the soil they emerge from. A firefly born in the cool mountains may glow differently from one born near a warm sea. The light adjusts to the world around it, a living reflection of its home. It is a small detail that carries something profound, a reminder that beauty is not uniform. It shifts and bends to fit the land that gives it life. The firefly's many lights are the world's way of telling the same story through different voices. If you could travel the globe following their glow, you would see how alike they are despite their differences. The same quiet devotion appears in every place. The males still rise into the dark, the females still answer from below, and the silence between their flashes still holds the same ancient tension of hope and belonging. It is a rhythm that has no borders, no language barriers, only light. The forests of Thailand, the rice fields of Japan, the plains of America, and the jungles of Brazil all hum with the same luminous heartbeat when night falls. For many cultures, these creatures hold deep meaning. In some stories, they are believed to be the souls of the departed flickering between this world and the next. In others, they are messengers of love, carrying secret words across the dark. For those who live in the quiet countryside, they are simply the living proof that the night can be gentle. To see them rising from the grass after rain is to know that the world is still capable of small miracles. Though separated by oceans and mountains, people everywhere react to fireflies in the same way. They stop what they are doing, they breathe slower, they look up and watch. The light does not shout or demand attention. It draws it softly, the way a lullaby catches the ear of a restless child. It is an instinct older than memory. Perhaps deep down, we recognize something familiar in their glow, a shared understanding that connection can exist even in silence. The global dance of fireflies reminds us that the planet is still stitched together by wonder. The same chemistry that burns quietly in a field in Kentucky glows in a cave in Malaysia. The same small pulse of life that rises from the soil after spring rain in one hemisphere will rise again 6 months later in another. Though their colors change, their message never does. Every light says the same thing. Life persists. It adapts. It finds a way to shine no matter where it is planted. When night falls and you see a single firefly flicker against the dark, it is not just one creature. It is part of a larger story unfolding across the world, one that connects forests, fields, and hearts through the same ancient light. The glow that drifts past your window tonight might mirror one shining on the other side of the planet. And though the world can feel vast and divided, the fireflies remind us that beauty, in its purest form, belongs to everyone. It travels freely, carried on wings so small they barely stir the air, yet powerful enough to make even the widest night feel alive and shared. Long before science gave names to chemical reactions and light waves, people looked at fireflies and saw mystery. Their glow was too soft to be fire, too alive to be ordinary. In the time before electricity, when the night belonged entirely to stars and silence, the sudden appearance of moving lights among the grass must have felt like magic. Across the world, in every place where fireflies rose, people built stories around them. Some imagined they were the souls of ancestors returning home to visit the living. Others believed they were small spirits that carried messages between worlds. No matter the culture or the language, they were never seen as insects first, but as something far older, something that belonged to the heart of the night. In Japan, they were called Hotaru, and their glow was a symbol of love and transience. Lovers would walk by rivers during the season of fireflies, their reflections mingling with the lights drifting over the water. Poets wrote that the firefly's brief glow was like the fragility of human emotion, beautiful precisely because it did not last. During ancient festivals, their presence was believed to carry the souls of the dead, lighting the way home for those who had passed on. The sight of their glow became part of the rhythm of memory and loss, a reminder that light and life are both temporary but eternally returning. In parts of the American South, fireflies have long been called lightning bugs, their sudden sparks seen as playfulness rather than solemnity. Children chase them with jars and laughter, catching bits of wonder to hold in their hands. Folklore tells of people who believed that carrying a lightning bug's glow could protect them from spirits or guide them through the forest at night. Some said that if a firefly hovered near you, it was a good omen, a sign that joy was close. The stories differ from place to place, but in every version, their light is seen as a comfort, Among Native American tribes, fireflies held spiritual meaning as well. In one legend, they were believed to be the remnants of the Great Spirit's campfires, scattered across the sky and the earth, to remind humanity of warmth and connection. In another, they were said to be tricksters who used their light to confuse those who wandered the forest, leading them towards self-discovery rather than harm. The stories carried lessons as much as wonder, teaching respect for the natural world and for the mystery that lies within it. In the Philippines, people once believed that fireflies were the glowing eyes of ancestral spirits keeping watch over the living. Their gentle light was not to be disturbed or captured. To see a firefly near one's home meant protection and blessing. In some tales, their glow was thought to carry messages from the heavens, a fleeting language that could only be read by the heart. To others, they were symbols of good harvests or the promise of safe travel through the night. Even in places where fireflies no longer glow as brightly, their image remains deeply woven into culture. Poets, painters, and storytellers continue to find meaning in their light. They appear in songs about lost love, in dreams about childhood, and in the quiet pauses between memories. The firefly's glow has become more than a natural wonder. It has become a metaphor. It stands for hope that flickers but never dies, for beauty that exists precisely because it is fragile, for the way life continues to shine even in the dark. Modern science has given us the language to explain their light. We now know the names of the molecules, the enzymes, the exchanges of oxygen that make their glow possible. Yet even with all that understanding, their light has not lost its wonder. Knowing how it works does not make it less beautiful, any more than knowing how a heart beats makes love less real. The firefly's glow still feels sacred because it bridges two worlds, the world we can explain and the one we cannot. Perhaps that is why people continue to stop and watch when they see one. For a few seconds, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The sight of a single flicker in the darkness can make us feel connected to every story ever told about them. It reminds us that the same lights our ancestors once watched still rise every summer, carrying their silent messages across the night. We may no longer believe that fireflies are spirits or guides, but we still recognize their gift. They bring mystery back into a world that often forgets to look for it. When you see them glowing in the dark, you are seeing more than an insect. You are seeing a memory of humanity's oldest relationship with light. The wonder that existed before science, before words, before we learned to tame the night. Fireflies are reminders that not everything must be understood to be loved. Their glow endures as a quiet truth shared across generations and continents, whispering the same simple message: that light, in all its fleeting forms, belongs to everyone who takes the time to notice it. If you could look closely at the body of a firefly, beyond the shimmer of its glow, you would find an extraordinary design hidden inside. What looks like a simple flicker from the outside is the work of a remarkable structure that functions with quiet precision. Deep within the firefly's abdomen lies a lantern built not by human hands, but by nature's slow, patient craft. It is a system so intricate that even our most advanced technologies struggle to imitate it. To understand how a creature so small can make light so perfect is to see the intelligence of evolution written in living form. The firefly's light is born in an organ made of layered cells. Each layer has a purpose, each arranged in a pattern that turns chemistry into radiance. At the heart of this structure lie the photocytes, the cells where the light is made. They are filled with tiny compartments that hold luciferin and luciferase, the molecules that create the glow when oxygen enters. Surrounding these cells are tissues rich with tracheae, delicate tubes that carry air into the lantern. The firefly can control these tubes, opening and closing them with muscles that are too small for the eye to see. When it lets oxygen in, the reaction begins. When it closes them, the light stops. The result is a kind of living lamp that turns on and off with perfect timing. Scientists once believed that the firefly's glow was continuous and that the insect simply shielded it to make the flashes. But the truth is far more elegant. The light itself begins and ends within fractions of a second, controlled entirely by the flow of air and the balance of chemicals. It is a rhythm of biology and breath. The firefly is not burning, it is breathing light into existence. Even more astonishing is how the lantern is shaped to make this light visible. Beneath the layer of photocytes lies a reflective surface made of tiny crystal-like plates. These plates are arranged in overlapping layers that act like mirrors, bouncing the light outward instead of letting it scatter inside. Without this reflective layer, much of the glow would be lost within the insect's body. Instead, nearly all of it escapes, shining clean and strong into the night. Above the reflective surface lies another layer that works like a lens. It refracts and softens the glow, ensuring that it spreads gently rather than harshly. What reaches our eyes is not a beam, but a warm, diffuse light, one that feels alive because it is. Every part of the lantern serves a purpose, and every part contributes to its remarkable efficiency. Almost all the energy used in the chemical reaction becomes visible light, with almost no heat wasted. Human-made bulbs and LEDs can only dream of such perfection. Engineers have studied the structure of firefly lanterns for years, hoping to learn how to build more efficient lighting systems. In laboratories, they have discovered that the tiny ridges and layers of a firefly's shell reduce reflection and increase brightness, leading to new designs inspired by the insect's own body. What the firefly has achieved naturally, humans continue to chase with science. And yet, for all the precision hidden in its anatomy, the firefly's lantern is not mechanical, it is alive. It grows and breathes and changes, built from the same fragile tissue that makes up wings and legs. When the firefly glows, the reaction is not just chemistry, it is an expression of life itself. The light that spills from its body is tied to every beat of its heart and every breath it takes. It is both biological and poetic, an act of survival and of beauty. If you hold one gently and watch its lantern pulse, it is impossible not to feel a sense of reverence for the complexity contained in something so small. Each glow is the product of millions of years of refinement, of nature's constant balancing between energy and form. The firefly's lantern is proof that elegance does not always come from scale. Sometimes it exists in the smallest, most fleeting things. The structure that allows this tiny creature to light up the night reminds us that beauty often hides beneath the surface, waiting patiently for those who care enough to look closer. So the next time you see a firefly rise from the grass and send a spark into the dark, know that you are witnessing one of nature's most sophisticated creations at work. Behind that brief flicker lies a world of precision, harmony, and purpose, all unfolding in silence. It is easy to think of it as simple magic, but in truth, it is something even more wonderful. It is design made humble. It is science turned into poetry. It is the universe expressing itself through the smallest spark, in the body of a creature whose light will last only a moment, but whose story will never truly fade. There are nights when the fireflies seem fewer, when their glow feels quieter, as though something in the air has changed. On those nights, the moon rises full and bright, casting its pale light across the fields and trees. The fireflies drift lower in the grass or slow their rhythm, their flashes dimming against the silvery wash of moonlight. The night is still beautiful, but it feels different. The balance between darkness and light has shifted. Even the fireflies, who have spent millions of years learning how to speak in flashes, seem to pause, as if listening to the great white lantern that has climbed above them. For all its calm beauty, moonlight is not gentle to the fireflies' language. Their glow depends on contrast. The darker the night, the clearer their message. But when the moon is bright, it paints the world in soft illumination, and their signals are harder to see. To us, the sight of their dimming may seem melancholy, but to them it is an act of instinct. They know when to rest, when the night is too bright for their language to travel. Instead of struggling against the moon, they simply adjust. They wait. In many ways, this quiet retreat is a kind of conversation between two kinds of light. The moon does not burn. It reflects. Its glow is borrowed from the sun, softened by distance and shadow. The firefly's light, on the other hand, is its own creation, born deep within its body, a light that lives and breathes. When these two kinds of illumination meet, one vast and ancient, the other fleeting and alive, the world seems to hold its breath between them. The moon floods the landscape with stillness, and the fireflies fold their glow into that calm, letting the night belong for a while to something larger than themselves. There is a kind of wisdom in that surrender. The firefly does not waste its strength trying to compete with the moon. It has no need to outshine the sky. When the world is too bright, it waits for the darkness to return. It trusts that the rhythm of the earth will bring back the right conditions for its light to matter again. There is patience written into its very nature, a deep understanding of cycles. Its silence beneath the full moon is not loss but balance, a reminder that every brightness has its time to shine and its time to fade. For those who wander through the fields on moonlit nights, the dimming of the fireflies brings a different kind of beauty. The grass glows with soft silver, and the faint remaining flashes feel like whispers, small and deliberate against the larger glow above. Each tiny light becomes more intimate, like a secret shared, rather than a song shouted across the meadow. The fireflies seem to move slower, their wings catching hints of moonlight as they drift close to the ground. They do not vanish completely. They simply quiet themselves, blending their glow with the rhythm of the night. There is something profoundly peaceful in watching this shared illumination. The moon and the fireflies do not compete. They coexist, one grand and distant, the other delicate and near. Together they create a layered light that fills the world with texture. The silver of the moon softens the green-gold glow of the insects until the whole landscape seems to breathe. It is the kind of sight that asks for stillness, for presence. To watch them is to feel the slow pulse of the planet, the unspoken agreement between sky and earth. As the night deepens, the moon begins its slow descent, and its light fades back into shadow. One by one, the fireflies lift their lanterns again. The darkness thickens, and their glow grows bolder, reclaiming the fields as their own. It happens so gradually that you might not notice until suddenly the meadow is alive again, filled with sparks that rise and fall like embers. The fireflies have waited patiently for this moment, and the world rewards them with the return of perfect night. Their dance beneath the moon is not a story of struggle but of harmony. They know when to glow and when to rest, when to let another kind of light take the stage. Theirs is a wisdom written in cycles, in the rhythm of light and dark, of presence and pause, and perhaps there is something for us to learn from that quiet exchange. We too can rest when the world feels too bright, saving our energy for the moments when our own light is needed most. The fireflies teach us that it is not weakness to be still, it is grace. When the moonlight fades and the night returns, they will rise again, steady and luminous, their tiny lamps burning once more in the calm breath of the dark. When you stand in a meadow at night and the air hums with warmth, the fireflies begin to appear in waves, their light flickering like soft notes of music carried on the wind. There is no sound, yet something in their movement feels like a melody. The rhythm of their glow rises and falls, forming a quiet pattern that pulls you inward. You start to realize that the fireflies are not only making light, but also composing a kind of visual song. Their timing is so precise, their pause is so intentional, that it feels like they are keeping tempo with the breath of the night itself. If you listen closely, not with your ears but with your attention, you begin to hear the night differently. The crickets form a low hum that fills the space like the steady drone of a string instrument. The rustling leaves add their soft percussion, and the fireflies, though silent, weave their light between these sounds as if they were instruments of their own. Every flash seems to fall into place with the rhythm around it, forming chords of illumination that shimmer through the darkness. Their light does not interrupt the music of the meadow, it becomes part of it. For the fireflies, this pattern is not art but instinct, yet it carries all the grace of a symphony. The males call out across the dark with their specific rhythms, and the females answer from below, their flashes sinking into something larger than themselves. The entire field becomes an orchestra of timing and patience, where each small light joins the next in a harmony that feels alive. Some flashes are quick, bright bursts that sound like laughter if you could hear them. Others are slow, lingering pulses, long notes of calm that float across the air. Together, they create a tempo that feels endless, an invisible song that lulls everything around it into stillness. There is something deeply comforting about this silent music. It fills the night without overwhelming it, adding beauty without noise. It speaks in a language that exists beneath sound, one that can be felt more than heard. The fireflies teach that communication does not always require a voice. Sometimes it lives in rhythm, in pattern, in presence. When they fill the air with their lights, they create a shared quiet that draws every living thing into the same moment. Even the breeze seems to slow to match their pace. Perhaps that is why watching fireflies feels so peaceful. The mind begins to slow, matching its own rhythm to theirs. Thoughts drift away, replaced by the gentle repetition of light appearing and fading again. It is like listening to a lullaby you do not remember learning but somehow already know. The heart settles into the same cadence, and the night becomes an extension of your own calm. The fireflies' music is a reminder that beauty can exist without striving. They do not plan their pattern or seek perfection. Their harmony happens naturally, simply because they are alive and following what they were born to do. They do not worry about being in tune with one another. They simply are, and the world adjusts around them. In their stillness and their rhythm, there is truth. Harmony is not created through effort, but through presence. If you stay long enough, you may begin to see the light as more than a pattern. It becomes a conversation between the earth and the sky. Each glow feels like a word in a poem written in silence. The meadow transforms into a page, the night air into ink. You find yourself reading it without meaning to, feeling it rather than understanding it. The beauty of the moment is that it asks nothing of you. It does not need applause or interpretation. It only asks that you be there, that you notice. When the night deepens and the fireflies start to drift away, their music does not truly end. It lingers in the spaces they leave behind, in the quiet they create. You realize that silence itself has a rhythm, that even the absence of light carries its own gentle beat. The memory of their glow becomes part of the night's melody, woven so softly that you can almost still hear it when you close your eyes. It is a song that belongs to the darkness, one that has played for as long as there have been summers, and still will long after we are gone. The fireflies in their brief shining lives remind us that even the quietest things can make the world sing. The life of a firefly is a fleeting thing. It begins quietly in the soil, glows softly beneath the ground, and ends not long after it rises into the open air. An adult firefly lives only a few weeks, sometimes less, its time measured not in years or seasons but in nights of light. Yet in that brief span, it fills the world with beauty. Its glow ripples through meadows, forests, and gardens, enchanting everything it touches. There is a kind of grace in the way it lives, a reminder that length is not the only measure of meaning. The firefly does not count its days. It lives in moments, and each moment is enough. When a firefly emerges from its shell, it is already near the end of its journey. The weeks and months of its life beneath the soil have prepared it for this single purpose: to rise, to glow, and to bring new life into the world. It does not waste time learning or wandering. It knows what it must do, and it begins at once. Within a few days of its first flight, it begins to flash, sending its small light into the dark to find another like it. The night becomes a stage for these brief lives, their lights dancing together in the warm air. There is something beautiful about their certainty. They do not question what they are or why they shine. Their short lives are not a tragedy to them. The firefly is not aware of how little time it has, and so it uses every heartbeat fully. It glows, it flies, it sings its wordless song of light, and then it rests. Its life, short as it may be, is complete. There is a deep peace in that kind of existence, a peace that humans often forget. We spend so much time trying to hold on to every moment that we forget how to live inside them. The firefly has no such worry. Its simplicity is its wisdom. When its work is done, the firefly fades gently. Its light dims, and its body grows still, returning to the soil that once cradled it. Yet even in death, it leaves something behind. The eggs it has laid will hatch, and the cycle will begin again. The same light that flickered in one summer will return in another, carried by new wings. The glow never truly ends. It simply changes form. It becomes memory, it becomes continuation, it becomes promise. If you watch the fireflies long enough, you begin to understand that their brilliance lies not in their endurance, but in their timing. They appear just when the nights are warm enough to hold them and vanish before they can overstay their welcome. The firefly is a lesson in presence. It reminds us that to be here, now, even for a little while, can be enough. Each flash of its glow is a declaration of existence, a quiet statement that says, "I am alive, and that is all that matters." When the last of them fades from the fields at summer's end, their absence leaves behind a tenderness that lingers in the air. The memory of their light remains long after the darkness returns. The world feels slightly different for having seen them, as though their glow has been absorbed into the soil, waiting for the next season. Even in their brevity, they change the night. The firefly's life may be short, but it holds eternity in miniature. Every pulse of light is a moment that cannot be repeated but also cannot be lost. It belongs to the vast rhythm of nature, the same rhythm that moves the stars and tides and the beating of hearts. The firefly, in its few luminous nights, becomes part of that endless music. Its light is both fleeting and forever. So when you watch them, remember that their glow is not meant to last. It is meant to be noticed. The beauty of the firefly is in its willingness to shine without fear of fading. Its brief light tells a story of presence, of purpose, and of peace. And though each one burns for only a handful of nights, together they fill the world with a light that never truly goes out. As the first light of morning gathers on the horizon, the night begins to loosen its hold. The air, once alive with glowing movement, starts to quiet. The fireflies that filled the darkness with their golden rhythm drift lower into the grass, their glow fading until it becomes only the faintest pulse. The stars above begin to disappear, one by one, replaced by the soft grey of dawn. The world seems to hold its breath in that moment between night and day, when the last traces of the fireflies still linger, like embers waiting to fade. It is a time of stillness, the gentle closing of one story before another begins. The fireflies do not vanish all at once. Their light grows weaker as the sky brightens, until it is impossible to tell whether they are still glowing or whether the memory of their glow has simply stayed behind. The meadow, which only hours ago shimmered with 1,000 tiny lanterns, now stands quiet beneath the mist. It is easy to imagine that they are sleeping, hiding away beneath the leaves and blades of grass, resting after their long night of work. In truth, many will not rise again. Their time has passed, but the peace of their fading feels less like an ending and more like a sigh, a surrender to the natural rhythm of light and dark. The firefly's disappearance with dawn is not a retreat. It is part of its harmony with the world. Their glow belongs to the night, to the quiet hours when the air cools and the earth breathes softly. When the sun returns, it brings a different kind of light, a brightness too large for their small lanterns to compete with, so they yield. They let the day have its turn. The sun burns for all to see, while the fireflies save their glow for when the world is ready to listen again. In this simple rhythm, there is grace. They remind us that even light needs rest, that beauty does not vanish when it pauses, and that silence has its own form of brilliance. For those who stay awake to watch their last glimmers, the moment feels almost sacred. The colors of dawn begin to spill over the landscape, brushing the horizon with pink and gold, and yet the memory of the fireflies remains in the eyes, an afterimage of the night. It is a fragile beauty that exists only in transition, when both the sun and the firefly share the same sky for a brief instant. It is in that meeting of lights, the bright and the faint, that the world feels whole. The day needs the night to be complete, just as the firefly's glow needs the dark to be seen. By the time the first birds begin their songs, the last of the fireflies have gone. The world has turned once more, and their chapter closes quietly. The grass glistens with dew, and the memory of their light shimmers faintly within it, as though the night has left its fingerprints behind. The meadow feels both emptier and more alive, as if something invisible continues to move just beneath the surface. What remains is not absence, but presence transformed. The firefly's glow has become part of the dawn, folded into the warmth that rises with the day. The beauty of the firefly's farewell is that it mirrors life itself. Everything bright must eventually dim, not out of loss, but out of continuity. The glow yields to the sun, the same way the day will later yield to night again. Nothing is gone, it has only changed form. The fireflies will return when the world is once more cloaked in darkness, when the air grows soft and the stars reclaim the sky. Their rest is temporary, their light eternal in its pattern of coming and going. So as the last spark fades and the morning opens fully, it is not a goodbye. It is a gentle promise. Somewhere beneath the earth, new lives are already forming, tiny lights waiting for their turn to rise. The meadow, though still now, holds that promise within it. The firefly's glow may vanish with the dawn, but it will always return when the world grows quiet again. And when it does, the night will once more fill with the small, steady lights that remind us that beauty, even when it seems to disappear, is never truly gone. It is simply resting until the world is ready to see it again. And so, as the last lights fade into the quiet dawn, remember that even the smallest creatures carry galaxies of wonder within them. Fireflies live only briefly, yet in that short time they fill the night with light, with science, with poetry. Perhaps that's all any of us can do, glow while we can, softly and without hurry. As you drift off tonight, may your dreams be warm, calm, and full of firefly light glimmering at the edge of sleep. Rest easy, little thinker, and let your imagination keep glowing, even when your eyes close. Let me know in the comments where in the world you're listening from tonight.